Hello everyone, welcome back to the Green Man channel. Hope you're all doing good and well. So in this video I'm going to be talking about episode 4 of the Amazon Wheel of Time TV series. The episode was called The Dragon Reborn, clocking in at just over an hour, and this episode was focusing in much more on the Logain Ablar character. In fact, in the Eye of the World book, the first book of the Wheel of Time series, we don't really see much of Logain Ablar at all. We see him briefly in about the 39th chapter, but that's about it for Logain in the first book. Yet in the TV series, we're seeing almost a whole episode dedicated to him. Perhaps that's because the concept of the dragon and the Dragon Reborn is a very central tenet of the entire Wheel of Time story, so that makes it perhaps understandable the director wanted to give much more time to Logain and his history or the backstory of the dragon than we've necessarily been given so far. And actually I think it pays off to some degree. We see better kind of character interplay, more character development, particularly with that of Nynaeve and Lan. And also with the Aes Sedai that are trying to obviously gentle the Logain character, so that he is not so dangerous with the use of his powers. And I enjoyed the way I think that they did. I mean, the CGI actually I thought was slightly better in this episode as well, I've got to say. I don't know why that would be necessary that I'm saying that, but I think I enjoyed the CGI they used in particular for Logain, with the kind of black stuff that's going around him and twisting and turning in all kinds of different directions. I thought that was quite good. And generally I quite enjoyed the action sequences a little bit more, and I think the way they used Alana in those action sequences was very, very good too. And we may see, I suspect, given we see more and more of Alana in the stories, we may see more and more of her in the TV series as well going forwards. Also, we're introduced to Karena, I think, who is actually in the prequel book New Spring. And she seems to be, I think, I have a feeling she's just introduced for this episode, given what unfolds in this episode. Spoiler alert. I will put a spoiler warning up with the video, I think, after I said that. But I'm not certain of that. I'm not certain of it, but it seemed like she's just going to be in this episode. And she has her warder in as well, Stepin, who, again, is also in New Spring, I believe. So, interesting the way that she's been brought in for this episode too, for this kind of like whole confrontation with Logain. And Liandrin is the other real focus, I think, here within the kind of Aes Sedai characters. And that suggests to me Liandrin is also, much more central here than she is in the first book. We don't see so much of Liandrin really until The Great Hunt, book number 2. But again, Liandrin is a fascinating character for me. I can see why they might be giving her a bit more airtime than they otherwise would be in the book series. Whereas, kind of, I suppose, at a similar point in time in the books, it's sort of a bit more focused on the whole sort of Kemlin events, or the road to Kemlin, with Mat and Rand's journey and Perrin Egwene's journey, I think, than it is so much with all this stuff that we get in this episode with Logain and Moiraine, Lan and Nynaeve. Which, as I say, I'm not against it. I'm not yet sure, though, how much I'll be for it, depending on how they use this episode in the future, if that makes sense. Because I think what comes after will determine how I perhaps view this episode in hindsight. Because I thought, if I was new to this, right, if I had no idea about the books, I would have enjoyed this episode, I think. And I think I still did quite enjoy it. It was just a total surprise, so I was just kind of left a bit surprised as much as anything else, because it was just totally unexpected. And so if you're an avid fan of the books, you just maybe be a bit like taken aback and a bit like, wow, okay, that was totally not what I was thinking would happen. Again, that's probably done on purpose, because the director doesn't want this as a carbon copy of each and every part of the books, but it's just interesting how much of a deviation this particular episode was from anything we've really seen in the books. Now, I say that, and I'm going to switch now to discussing a bit about another kind of couple of scenes in the storyline, in particular those around Rand and Mat and Tom Merrilin. Now, we see in this episode them encounter these Grinwell characters, who I think, again, are kind of brief characters in the first book. Perhaps they're in the first, I think they were in the first book briefly. But what happens with Mat here is especially interesting, because we see him with the dagger finally. Now, I have a slight issue that, yes, we saw Mat take the dagger. Now, I thought of myself, right, if I hadn't didn't know about the books and the significance of Matt taking the dagger from Shagdal or Goth, I'd have had no idea about the fact that that bore any significance, and it might have led me to a bit of a kind of what the hell is going on moment in episode 4 when he suddenly, brandishes the knife before the fade, which is a great scene, by the way. I mean, fantastic scene. But it's suddenly, Matt getting sick. The bridging of that, I think it could have been referenced more clearly in episode 3 that Matt had this ill attachment to this dagger. And it wasn't really referenced. I'm not even sure it's referenced once. His kind of the knife in the 3rd episode, and to jump an episode without a reference to that is risky with new viewers. New viewers will not have a clue what that was all about. I suspect possibly they might have caught onto it if they were paying lots of attention, but otherwise not an easy one to pick up if you're a new viewer. But what happened with him was pretty brutal, and what happened with the little girl as well was really unexpected. But there again, this is the way of making the TV episode a bit more entertaining, I think, and just showing the darker side of the dark powers of the Wheel of Time, if you like. Another divergence here from the book, actually, whilst we do see, I think, Matt getting more sick, I think, and we see Tom, Marilyn, and we see Rand and Matt separate from Tom Marilyn in the books. I think it happens in about chapter 26 of The Eye of the World. They flee away and Tom instructs them to go to the Queen's Blessing in Kemlin. I don't think there was that instruction in this TV episode, so it seems like, well, that makes me ask the question, will we see the Queen's Blessing? Will we see any of Kemlin at all? Or are they just going to skip that whole bit as well? I'm a little bit nervous that they're skipping so much here that the heart of some of the characters in the stories are going to be weaker because of that. I think it's really important for the Rand and Matt part of this story that they include some of those things, actually, because it gives more weight to their characters, and I'm a bit worried that they're rushing that a little too much for my liking. Although the stuff we got with Logain was great, it's really important they don't wash over our Rand and Matt story too much, because they're for me too central to the Wheel of Time for later parts. So hopefully we'll get more Rand and Matt stuff in the next episode. And actually the ones, I think it was like only 1 or 2 scenes in this episode we get with them. It was very, very good. The execution of the scene, that is, was really good with the fade. And I thought the fade stuff, that was really cool, the way Tom was fighting him off and everything. I really enjoyed that bit. And, just to add, there was the bit with Egwene and Perrin and the Tinkers, which I didn't really care about much, to be honest. And I don't care about it a huge amount in the books either. But it was still, obviously quite nice to have that as a deviation. We should, by now, I really think, have Elias in the story. I'm not sure why he's not there yet. But again, they're obviously trying to, I can understand decisions to trim the fat from some of the story, but there's a difference between trimming fat and slicing away great parts of it. So they've got to be a little bit careful that they don't take too much of the heart of the Wheel of Time away here. But for what it's worth, this is a good episode. I think, if I didn't know the books, I would definitely give this one like an 8 out of 10. It was really entertaining. Coming from the angle of someone that really loves the books, I did still enjoy it. I mean, I have 1 or 2 questions, though, which would probably make me give this, as a book reader, give this a 7, maybe a 7.5 or something, if I'm going to be particular about it. But anyway, thanks everybody for watching this video. As always, do drop in the comments whether or not you liked this episode and what you thought about this decision to focus in on Logain, this really interesting character. Anyway, thanks again for watching. See you next time. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.